Hey there, do you feel hesitant about moving into a new season full of unknowns? In this video, I take you behind the scenes of the Rustic Songbird Podcast, where I interview recording artist Jenna Grace May about moving out of a season of isolation and moving into a new season with a peaceful mindset. This is such an important conversation, and I'm so glad that you're here. I hope that you thoroughly enjoy it. I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel for even more videos like this coming soon, and you can check out all of the previous episodes of the podcast at rusticsongbird.com/podcast. Real quick, I wanted to let you know about a free challenge for songwriters to build your confidence and to help you show up at your best, because perfection, it's overrated. I want to invite you into this free 4-day challenge where I share my best tips for showing up and getting started putting your songs out there. And this is a great challenge for anyone who's wanting to get started putting your songs out there, even if you shy away from playing your songs for anyone or you just don't know how to go about it. We cover all of that and more in the free 4-day challenge, and I want to invite you to be a part of it, to build your confidence and to start putting your music out into the world. To join this free challenge, go to rusticsongbird.com/challenge. That's rusticsongbird.com/challenge. I hope you take me up on it, and I'll see you inside. My guest on the show today is Jenna Grace May, and we're going to be talking today about how to navigate into a new season. And a lot of us have just been going through a big transition, and the last couple of months have been full of uncertainty. And as we move into a new season, really across the globe, there's a lot of new things happening, changes, transitions in our lives. And so I invited Jenna to come on the show and share her story and some encouragement for you as you're moving into a new season as well. So Jenna, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on.
I appreciate you taking the time to be here on the show. And I followed your music for a while and really just love your voice and your heart for worship music. And you're amazingly talented. I think you have such a beautiful gift to offer the world. But share a little bit of your story of how you got started with music, with writing, with worship, and what that looks like for you.
Yeah, so my story is just growing up as a church girl, but my dad's actually a college football coach. So I was surrounded by sports and all of that kind of lifestyle. And but my parents raised me in the church. And when I was little, I wanted to be a missionary. And just wanted to go spread the gospel. And so that's kind of where it started, and which over the years kind of led into as I had a love for music and learning how to play. And I we went through some tough years as a family. So just like to give you like an overview, I started out learning to love Jesus as a little girl, and he really captured my heart in this really pure and sweet way. And then about 10 years old till about like 19, many years, a lot of years, a lot of hard things started happening in our family, and just like loss of loved ones, of cancer and moving and job loss. And then I personally got sick with a thyroid disease called Graves' disease. So it was just like one thing after the next. And along that time, I discovered music, and that I just kind of had a knack for harmonies and melodies and learning the piano and things like that. And then I started playing an acoustic guitar, and I loved Jesus. And but what it didn't really make sense for me was everybody that I had to look up to in Christian music were kind of on the radio, and it just didn't fit with what I wanted to do. I was like, I want to be a missionary. And I didn't really have any worship leaders that I looked up to, because I just didn't know of any. I was just not in that loop, which is like so sad to me, until I decided at 19 years old to go work at a Christian camp called Doe River Gorge in the mountains, middle of nowhere, Northeast Tennessee. And at that camp, they were doing songs by these new bands to me, like Hillsong and Chris Tomlin. And I Christy Knuckles and all these worship leaders that were leading at the college gatherings like Passion and stuff like that, Jesus Culture, and I'd never heard of. And so when I started listening to this music, I was like, that's it. Like, this is what I want to do. I want to be a worship leader. It makes so much sense to me. I can travel and I can still do missions and like it's musicianary, you know, like
Yes.
just bring the love of Jesus through the peace and the beauty of music. And my heart was healed, really, honestly. A lot of the turmoil that I went through was healed through me just worshiping. So that's one reason why I love the presence of God, because I experienced so much peace when I just spend time with him. And so along the way, I wanted to write songs because where God had pulled me out of things and healed things in me, I wanted to write about that. And I guess, you know, continue the breakthrough for other people, like pass it on through music and through song. And then I wanted to write songs for the church so that I could lead them out and have a story behind the songs that I'm singing. And I'm a very passionate person, especially about like worship and why we sing the things we sing. And like, I always try to, you know, give people a moment to take it from their head to their heart and what they're singing about, and make it personal for them when we're worshiping. And I love this season. I don't love this season that we're in, but it is shaking us up as the body of Christ. And it's really bringing some people to their knees, and we are able to say, do I really believe what I say I believe? Am I going to be scared, or am I going to have faith and trust God in this season? And that's just like a whole nother thing we could talk about. But that's kind of an overview of my story. Now I'm married to a wonderful man who also does worship and music, and who produces my songs for me. And he co-leads with me. Even if he doesn't sing on the microphone, he's very much co-leading with me, is carrying the weight of what we're doing together. And he just basically enabled me to continue to do what I do. Very blessed. His name's David. And we do this together. We travel around, and we lead at all kinds of different age groups, and sometimes women, sometimes both men and women, just wherever the Lord opens the door. It's just our heart to go and minister. And so that's kind of me and us in a nutshell.
That's so awesome. And you had started a podcast a while back too, and I was
Mhm.
listening to some of that, and I heard you say, just if you hear me say we, it's me and my husband. I see us like as a unit
Mm,
working together, and I love that.
mm,
That's really
yeah.
cool that you can do ministry together. And like you said,
Mhm.
music is ministry. And so
Yeah.
as a musicianary, you're bringing the gospel through songs to whatever platform, whatever stage that you're leading on. And
Mhm.
that's such a beautiful opportunity to share God's love with people
Mhm.
through music. And so I think it's really interesting in your story about all the things that you've overcome and come on the other side of. And I know we're constantly learning,
Mhm.
but let's talk about like going through illness and what that looked like and how that changed or strengthened your faith in God during that time.
Yeah. I got Graves' disease when I was 15, and also just in a weird season in life anyways, and just as a Christian in a public high school, just really having a hard time finding friends, and it was just really hard. I didn't know very many believers that really lived it out. And so, but when I got sick, it was honestly, I feel like, I don't think God got me sick, but he did use a lot of it to pull me out of some things, pull me away from some friends that were not going down a good path. And I completely was out of it for about a year. I was very, very sick. I had an extreme case of Graves' disease, which was just top of the charts for the symptoms and everything that happens to your body. Basically, I was just kind of sleeping a lot, and then a lot of other things. It's a really complicated disease, but I ended up just kind of like quitting a lot of things I was doing in the process, like cheerleading. I was a cheerleader and had to pull away from that. And then I got radioactive iodine, which actually kills your thyroid. And then, so I kind of went on the other end of the spectrum, and then slowly had to bring me back up to like a normal state in my body. And, you know, it's, once you kind of go through that, you don't really know what normal is anymore, but normal enough. And it took a lot of years to kind of get to a level place. I was well into college, if not like done with college by the time we found kind of a happy place. But with the medicine and stuff that I had to take. But what that did to me was it just shifted my whole life. I lost all of those friends, which hurt a lot because it just seemed like, you know, in the time when you thought people would really care about you, they kind of moved on with their life. They're high school girls, you know, they were just into what high school girls are into. And so, but also during that time, this is a kind of a random, I didn't expect this, but I actually got a horse. My uncle gave me and my sister a horse, and God used that horse to just be a constant for me. We ended up moving again right before my senior year. I brought this horse with me, and me and my little sister bonded during that time with this horse. And I just got to learn how to train him, and we spent a ton of time with horses. And so by the time I graduated high school, I was riding horses and singing, and that's what I told everybody I wanted to do when I graduated high school. I was going to sing and ride horses. And my high school like choir teacher actually like, made a joke about it, and it kind of got under my skin because I was like, that's not funny, it's really what I want to do. But when I was 19, I went off to work at the camp, and at the camp I ended up being the equestrian director over the horse program and leading worship at the same time. And I did that for several years. But I always have a place in my heart for people going through sickness and in times of just your body being uncooperative with what you want to do with your life. And but I do believe in healing very much, so that I still pray for God to heal my thyroid, even though technically it's been killed by the stuff the doctors have did to help me get through that time. But I do believe that God, if you wanted to, could just bring it right back to life. And so I do love to pray for people when they're going through times of illness and sickness, for their healing, and also just to encourage them that, you know, it will pass, and that those times when things are shifted. And I really do feel like we're in this season right now of a shift where we're forced to slow down, and we're forced to recollaborate and recalibrate, that's the word, yeah. And just change the way that we do things. It gives us a chance to really look at our faith and what we believe about God. And he draws so close to the brokenhearted. He draws so close to us in our times of need. So yeah, I've learned a lot just in the quietness, in the secret place, in the hidden places, because I was kind of sidelined for a while. But I still dreamed, you know, I was 15, so I was still dreaming, and I started playing the guitar then, and just all these little things that I do now, you know, kind of was birthed in a season of sickness. So yeah.
Yeah, that's so amazing how things that we just pick up, like even a hobby or just something that seems small in the time, ends up being like a milestone moment. Or like you said, you pick it up and you start singing, and it's what you decided to do, and now you're singing a lot and using music as a ministry. And so I think it's interesting how each story is different and every person's path looks different. But like you said, a lot of times it's a season of darkness or a season of hurting or pain that actually helps us to grow and to strengthen our faith in God. And so now you have that story to share with others and to pass on what you've learned. And like you said, in your time with the Lord, that's when he's teaching you things that you can share with other people. So in those seasons, I've heard a great quote that said, you might feel like in the dark times that you're buried, but really you're just being planted.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think God does work in us in those dark times so that we
Mm-hmm.
can grow and so that we can bloom and we can be fully alive in what he wants for us.
Yeah.
So could you speak to that for someone that is listening right now and maybe feels in a dark time, like hasn't come on the other side of it, wants to grow
Mm-hmm.
into a new season? Like, how would you speak into someone's life who is still in the thick of it?
Yeah. Well, first of all, God is so near, and he walks so close to us when we're in the dark night of the soul, as I've heard Amanda Cook call it. She's so poetic. And honestly, there's so much, the seeds that are sown there are some of the strongest seeds that we carry. And when we come out of the other side of it, there's a passion. I mean, there's just such a drive. And I do believe that it's that. I just love for freedom. Christ has set us free, and he will set you free. And there will be another side to this. But when we are free on the other side, we should be just completely on fire to set others free. And it's for other people's freedom too that we've been set free. And when I look at a group of people, and you can kind of spot, like when I'm leading worship or whenever, if you spot somebody that maybe needs a word of encouragement, I'm kind of just drawn to those people because I know that place. Like I've been in that place. And some of my favorite scriptures, Isaiah 43, that chapter, right in the first couple of verses, it talks about, when you walk through the fire, I'll be with you. You will not be burned. Walk through the waters, they won't overcome you. Just saying that, like, when you walk through these seasons, I will be with you. The Lord says he will be with you. And he has just shown me time and time again that his hand is heavy on my shoulder in those seasons, and he has never forsaken me. And also in Isaiah 54, he talks about how though the mountains shake and though the hills be removed, my steadfast love shall not be removed from you, nor my covenant of peace removed, says the Lord, who has compassion on you. And he's just making promise after promise that things might be shaken up, things might be unknown or uncertain. We can't see our way to the other side, but his steadfast love is constant, and he will never leave us, and he will never forsake us. And honestly, I had a waking up moment one time where God just showed me like a slideshow, like one after another. I was 24. I was just hurting, and I was not understanding where I was going with my life. And I just cried out to Jesus. And he brought me back to some of the hardest moments in my life, in my memory. The last time I saw my grandmother alive before she passed away of cancer. And he reminded me he was with me in that room. I have encountered God in the most powerful ways in some of the most painful moments. And those moments are what I carry when I walk out in the freedom that I have now. And when I stand in front of people and lead worship, I know that freedom, and I know that goodness, and I know that he's so close. And that just drives me to tell everybody that. And the only thing I've learned, one of the most important things I learned, is that he is with us in those times. And you're not forsaken. You're not alone. You're not forgotten. He sees you, and he collects all your tears. Like, he knows every tear that you've cried, and you're not forgotten. There's a plan. There's another side to this season, and you're going to get there. Jesus is so faithful. He's always faithful.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for sharing some scriptures too that were helpful to remember, and you've obviously memorized them, so they're, coming back to you when you need them. And that's why the Word of God is so powerful, is that when we do have that as a reminder, then we can hold on to the truth in the midst of uncertain times, when we're not sure about the future, we're not sure about the outcomes, or even like what our next step should be. If we can hang on to his promises, like you said, he keeps his word and he's always with us, through any storm, and he's with us through it and on the other side of it. And so if we hang on to him, he is something that is sure and certain and unchanging. And so that's encouraging. As a Christian, we have that hope and we have that faith that is proven over and over, that he shows up and he's with us through the storm. Could you share maybe some examples of your life as you've come into a season of freedom like that? Share some encouragement for when things are going well, and like on the other side of that, of just being able to take what you've learned in those harder seasons and then really walk in faith when it's a good season.
Yeah. So one of my favorite scriptures, and I am going to pull it up because I don't want to mess it up. I've been trying to quote this one a lot lately and I keep messing it up, but it's Isaiah 61. Let me pull it up. Isaiah 61. It's just so beautiful. This is what Jesus says. He says that he has come to proclaim the good news to the poor, to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from the darkness the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor, and to comfort all of those who mourn, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. And they will be called oaks of righteousness, the planting of the Lord for the display of his splendor and glory. And I just love that because that's what Jesus does for us, you know. And I love the gospel. That sounds silly to say, but when he came and he took our sins and he took our punishment and he died and then he rose again and he ascended to heaven, he made a way for us to be clothed in the righteousness that he carries. And that is something to dance about, and something to sing about, and something to be joyful about, because we don't have to continue to live in our sin. Like, we can choose him, and when we choose him, he washes us white as snow, and he gives us a crown of beauty instead of the ashes of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. And I'm telling you, I carried a spirit of despair. I was that. I was so broken after so many years of pain and just feeling like the rug had been ripped out from under me many times with sickness, and just watching people I love pass away, and moving and losing relationships, and feeling so alone. When I went to work at this camp, and this is where we get back to worship, I just started singing to him in worship. I'd never lifted my hands. I'd never surrendered in that way and expressed myself to him. And it was during that season of being immersed in night after night worship in a tent with a bunch of kids and college students, and just in that camp atmosphere, and hearing the word of God preached night after night, and taking that from a head knowledge to a heart knowledge changed my life. And that's how I got set free. I learned about the stuff in the Bible, that it's real. Like, I always was like, why do we preach this so we don't live this way, you know? And so I got to experience that, and I got to experience that in my life. And so I just started to honestly, when I started to lead worship, I was terrified. I was not a brave soul at all. And a lot of the transformation that I've seen in my life is just coming from being someone who the enemy, you know, tries to shut down and shut up, and to keep me from using my life to be a message of the gospel of peace, you know, and seeing that overcoming over and over again. I've seen God open doors for me that I asked for. I literally would look up at the stage at the camp, and I was like, God, I want to be up there one day. Like, that's what I want to do, which is funny because I was terrified to do it, but that's what I asked to do. And it was 5 years though. So I went through 5 years of being a camp counselor and working with the horses. And then I started to help on Sunday mornings for the staff worship, which was more intimate, just an acoustic guitar thing. I was still scared, but 5 years later, the guy that was in the lead of all the worship at the camp asked me to join that team. And then I went through basically worship leading boot camp, because I was up every night in front of whole bunch of kids, and just learning how to get out of my head. There's so much that you could talk about with that, just the thoughts that hit you when you're leading worship, and just working on that. But just Jesus has taken this sad, hurting person that I was, and made me so full of joy, and like my cup does run over it, and honestly, like, it makes me like want to tear up just thinking about the journey that he's taken me on. And there's not really a way to describe it, but I know that these words are true, that he does give us the oil of joy instead of mourning, the garment of praise instead of the spirit of despair. And it's just knowing him, it's abiding in him, like John 15 says, like abiding in the vine, that he will prune us when we need pruning, so that we'll bear fruit. And just walking with him day in and day out, and it doesn't make sense, and even the times where you don't feel close to him, and knowing his word and planting it in your heart, that's where the transformation happens. It's not overnight. It is a gradual, beautiful process. But one day you will look in the mirror and see a different person. And some people's testimonies are like, bam, I was healed. Mine is this slow, hidden, secret process of coming to the feet of Jesus in the bedroom or in my living room alone, and just like praying and writing down my prayers and praying them over and over again until I see things come to pass. It's been a very obedient journey, and it's not been easy. And sometimes I've been like, God, I want the breakthrough. I want to be just like overnight, like something amazing to happen. But my journey has been the gentle and steady journey. But I think that is more encouraging, because I feel like that's the more common journey. And a lot of the times we look at people that seem super free and super just like living it, but you never really know their story. You never know what happens in the secret place. But it's the slow and steady people that have walked that, well, I always like to call it the well-worn path. I think I heard that from Melissa Helser. I love her so much. I don't know her. I wish I knew her. But the well-worn path to the feet of Jesus, that you just walk daily to spend time with him over and over again. And I don't know exactly where this is. I know it's in the New Testament, but it talks about how we as Christians who know Jesus have unveiled faces, and how those who look to him are radiant. And it talks about, like, as Moses, when he would go spend time with God, he would cover his face so that the Israelites didn't see the glow, the radiance, like, fade. But we are of the New Testament, of the new covenant with Jesus, are unveiled. We've unveiled faces so that we always be radiant. And you just know those people that, and in my mind, I'm picturing like these elderly people, honestly, right now, like the grandparents that have just walked with Jesus for so long that they just like ooze him. And I don't know, I feel like I got off on a tangent, but I just think the most free people are the people that do the hidden things, and that walk that long journey with Jesus and commit to it. And that's where my freedom came. It's been a long journey, and every day I am seeking more of him, and he refines me. I'm all about being refined in the fire, and because that's just been my life, and that's what I need. So yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing from your story too, because there's so much good stuff that you just shared, and you can tell there's just a deep well of you spending time with the Lord and walking through those seasons. And like you said, it's not just a quick overnight thing. Most of the time, the Lord can definitely instantly heal people, but the type of walk you're talking about, your spiritual journey, is a daily walk. And so showing up even in the illness, showing up even in the hard times, in the unknown, even in the good times, like, it seems to me that, like, I mean, we all walk through those seasons, but it's in those hard places that he meets us and he grows us into the person that we need to be in the next season. And so without those, we wouldn't be tested in the same way. And like you said, something might take a long time, but it turns out differently than it would if he had just instantly healed you and you didn't have to walk through any problems and never had any struggles. Like, the Lord doesn't promise that we won't struggle. He promises that he has already overcome and that he's with us. And so as we're remembering who he is, that's something that we can carry through every season, and we can know there's a time for every season. Like Ecclesiastes says, there's a time to live and there's a time to die. There's a time to grow. There's a time to plant and a time to reap. And so there's cycles and there's seasons in life. There's an order to everything. And so if we're going through a hard season right now, we can know that's going to change. It's temporary. If we're going through a good season, we can know that's going to change too. So enjoy it and make the most of it, because we know times are going to ebb and flow, but the constant thing is that Jesus stays the same. He doesn't change. He's faithful. He's there for us. And I'm so glad that you reminded us of that today through your story and what he's done in your life. What encouragement would you give to those listening who are ready to walk in that new season? Maybe they're inspired by this conversation and using their own story to share with others. What encouragement would you give to them?
Yeah, your story matters so much and your voice matters so much. And I would just say, don't wait for the approval of somebody that you look up to. And I mean, like, if it's a mentor, that's a different story. But I feel like I always waited for someone to tell me, okay, you can do it now, or okay, you can record that song, or you can write that song, or you can share your story online. Or I was always waiting for that approval from some person that I admired, fill in the blank. But the truth is that that might not ever come. And honestly, they don't decide whether your story matters or not. It matters, and you were created for a purpose and a reason. So go for it. Step into that. I feel like that was one of the biggest breakthrough points for me, was when I was like, I'm just going to do it. Like, I'm just going to start recording in my songs and start putting them out there. Like, I remember when I made a Facebook page for my music, like, it felt so weird. I was like, what are people going to think of me? Like, making a page for my music, they're going to think I'm so into myself. Like, that's what it felt like. But I mean, like, so many years later, I don't know how long it's been, but like, I do these live streams, just like worship live streams, where we just spend time and sometimes we just pray. Like, sometimes I just make up songs as we go. And I've had people on there like this. Sometimes I don't have that many. And then like last week I had people on from like Australia, and I'm like, I don't even know where they came from. and they're just worshiping, and they were sharing scriptures, and I was reading them, and it was just like this, like everything I've dreamed of for a live stream. I was like, what is going on right now? And I do think that's a lot to do with our season that we're in too. But if I never just like stopped waiting for someone to tell me I was good enough to do it, and just believe that God's word saying that I need to do this is enough, like, it's kind of like, who are you going to obey? Are you going to obey God's call, or are you going to wait for man to get approval of man? And there's a verse in Galatians that I love that's like, am I seeking approval of man or God? If I were seeking approval of man, then I would not be a servant of the Lord. And that cuts to the core, because like as ministers, like, we want to be servants of the Lord first and foremost.
Right.
So, anyways.
Oh, I love it. It's beautiful. So you mentioned your Facebook and the lives that you're doing, live worship. I love that so much. Share how people can get connected with you online and see what you're doing and hear the new music.
Yeah, so I'm on all the like Facebook and Instagram and everything as Jenna Grace May, and it's May like the month. For some reason it's really confusing to people, but just Jenna Grace May. And yeah, I have music on Spotify. I've got 3 singles out right now, just under the same name, and I've got another single coming really soon. They said they
So
submitted it.
exciting.
Yeah, so it was submitted today. So I don't know, it might be like in a month. I don't know. We're like, everything's crazy right now with timing, but I'm so excited about this next song. It's just, I'm in a new season, so it just feels right, just to put a new song. A lot of my songs that are out right now, or all of them, are written from a lot of the scriptures that I quoted today. So
that's so good.
So you can find them in the songs.
I love that. Well, thanks for sharing your story today and some encouragement for our listeners, and just being willing to use your life and your story to share the gospel and spread the message. I just want to affirm that you do have a beautiful message and a story, and that it's impacting a lot of people. So keep up the great work, and thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much for watching this video and checking out the Rustic Songbird podcast. I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel for even more videos coming very soon. And you can check out all of the previous podcasts at rusticsongbird.com/podcast. Also, remember you can join my free challenge for songwriters to build your confidence and start putting your music out there. To join that free 4-day challenge, go to rusticsongbird.com/challenge. I know you'll enjoy it, so make sure to sign up and start getting those emails from me in your inbox to help you boost your confidence and get started putting your music out into the world. I can't wait to see you in the next video. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.